Imagine creating something so powerful, so ahead of its time, that the world itself wasn't ready to see it. Now imagine vanishing before your dream ever came to life. This is the story of Louis Le Prince, a man whose genius gave birth to moving pictures, decades before Hollywood, before Edison, before the word cinema even existed. But his life's masterpiece would end in silence. One train ride in 1890, and Louis Le Prince was gone. No trace, no explanation, only questions. Was it a tragic accident? A secret experiment gone wrong? Or something otherworldly? A force that erases men who dare to see too far into the future? Here, inside the Mystery Vault, we open the lid on stories the world forgot. The ones that live between reality and the impossible. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe, like, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another deep mystery that bends the limits of what we think we know. Share this story if you believe some truths are too strange to stay buried. Now, let's journey into the shadows of France, 1890, and discover the mystery of the missing inventor. As the light from history's first camera fades, we're left only with questions and the faint outline of a man who gave us the gift of seeing time itself. Louis Le Prince's invention changed the world, but his disappearance reminds us that every light casts a shadow. Perhaps he was erased by fate or by human greed. Perhaps his work unlocked a door that should never have been opened. What remains certain is that his mystery endures, flickering frame by frame, in every story ever captured on film. Thank you for unlocking this vault with us tonight. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, share, and subscribe to Mystery Vault 80. Your support keeps the vault open and keeps us searching for the truths the world can't explain. Don't forget to tap the bell icon to get our newest investigations every week. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, not all who disappear are truly gone. Chapter 1. The Vanishing Genius. In the late 19th century, the world was on the edge of transformation. Electricity, photography, and motion were merging into something new, something that would forever change how humanity saw itself. And at the center of that transformation stood one man, Louis M. Augustin Le Prince, a French inventor, artist, and dreamer who, long before Thomas Edison or the Lumière brothers, created the world's first motion picture camera. In the year 1888, Le Prince recorded moving images of his family walking in a garden in Leeds, England, a moment that should have earned him a place in history as the true father of cinema. But fate had other plans, because just 2 years later, on September 16, 1890, Louis Le Prince vanished without a trace while traveling by train in France. No body was ever found, no luggage, no clear evidence. He was there one moment and gone the next. His disappearance became one of history's most enduring mysteries, a case tangled in jealousy, invention, and betrayal. Some believed he was murdered, perhaps silenced by rivals threatened by his genius. Others whispered that he staged his own disappearance to escape failure or family pressure. And a few believed something even stranger, that Le Prince's vanishing marked the beginning of a technological curse that haunted those who sought to capture moving life on film. More than a century later, his case remains unsolved, his legacy overshadowed by Edison and others who claimed his inventions. But as we look closer at the life and disappearance of this forgotten genius, one question still burns. What really happened to Louis Le Prince on that train from Dijon to Paris? Was it murder? Sabotage? Or did he vanish into history, erased by the very world he helped create? Before we dive into the facts, theories, and secrets behind this vanishing, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video. Join our growing community here at Mystery Vault 80 as we uncover the world's strangest unsolved cases every week. Your support helps us keep bringing hidden stories like this one back to light. Now, let's begin. Let's step into the shadows of history and follow the trail of the man who invented motion, then vanished in it. The inventor before his disappearance. Before Louis Le Prince became the man history forgot, he was a child of innovation. Born on August 28, 1841, in Metz, France. His father, an officer in the French army, often invited friends from scientific circles into their home. Among them was none other than Louis Daguerre, the inventor of the first practical form of photography, the daguerreotype. It was from Daguerre that young Louis first learned the power of images, how light, time, and memory could be frozen forever on metal plates. This early influence shaped his destiny. Years later, after studying painting, chemistry, and physics, Lou Prince moved to Leeds, England, in the 1860s, a time when the Industrial Revolution was transforming Europe. There, he met Elizabeth Whitley, a talented artist and the daughter of a successful manufacturer. The two shared a deep love for creativity and science, and soon married, forming one of history's most fascinating partnerships between art and invention. Together, they founded the Leeds Technical School of Art, a place where photography and chemistry met on canvas. But while others painted the world as it was, Louis dreamed of something greater, capturing life itself in motion. By 1885, his obsession with moving pictures became an all-consuming mission. He experimented with single-lens and multi-lens cameras, chemical emulsions, and new ways to project light onto surfaces. He designed prototypes in secret, fearing that competitors, including Thomas Edison in America, might steal his ideas. And then in 1888, Lou Prince did the impossible. In the garden of his in-laws' home in Leeds, he filmed what is now recognized as the first motion picture ever recorded, known today as Roundhay Garden Scene. The film lasts just 2 seconds, showing 4 people, his son, his in-laws, and a friend, walking in a circle and laughing. It's a simple moment, but it marked the birth of cinema. That short reel proved one thing. Louis Le Prince had done what no one else had achieved. He had captured motion itself. By 1889, Lou Prince was preparing to patent his device and debut it to the public in New York. He believed his invention would make him famous and restore France's place as a leader in visual art. But just as he prepared to unveil his work to the world, he vanished. His last known sighting was boarding a train from Dijon to Paris in September 1890, carrying the final blueprints and models of his camera. He never arrived. Neither his body, nor his luggage, nor the vital documents ever surfaced. It was as if the man who invented motion had simply stepped out of time. On the afternoon of September 16, 1890, Louis Le Prince arrived in Dijon, France, after spending several weeks visiting his brother, Albert Le Prince. He was in high spirits, optimistic, excited, and ready for the journey that would change his life. Louis had just completed his camera prototypes and was preparing to travel from France to New York City, where he planned to unveil his invention to the world. He told family and friends that this public showing would set the record straight, proving that he, not Thomas Edison, was the true inventor of moving pictures. But first, he needed to take a short trip, a train ride from Dijon to Paris. It was a simple journey, less than 4 hours long. He boarded the train at Dijon station, ticket in hand, carrying his luggage and a briefcase containing vital patent documents, blueprints, and personal papers. When the train left Dijon, everything seemed perfectly normal. Passengers later confirmed seeing Louis on board, alive, calm, and cheerful. But when the train arrived in Paris, he was gone. There were no reports of an accident, no struggle, no discovery of his belongings on the train or along the tracks. Even more strangely, no one remembered seeing him disembark. It was as if the man had simply disappeared into thin air somewhere between Dijon and Paris. Police searched every stop along the route. They checked rivers, fields, and nearby towns. Nothing. His luggage had vanished. His documents were gone. Even his train ticket was missing from the official records. His brother, Albert, was the last person to ever see him alive. He insisted Louis seemed happy and full of plans for the future. Albert told investigators he spoke of his exhibition in America with great excitement. He had no reason to flee. Yet others had doubts. Could he have chosen to disappear, overwhelmed by years of struggle and rejection? Or was he silenced by someone who feared what his invention would prove? Louis's disappearance sent shockwaves through his family. His wife, Elizabeth, back in Leeds, was devastated. She contacted the French authorities, the British consulate, even hired private investigators. But every lead turned cold. Weeks passed, then months. No ransom letters, no sightings, no body. By the end of the year, newspapers were already speculating wildly. Some claimed Lou Prince had been murdered for his invention. Others said he had taken his own life due to financial pressure or depression. And a few even suggested industrial espionage, that someone powerful had made him disappear to erase his legacy before he could patent motion pictures in America. Whatever happened on that train, one thing was certain. Lou Prince, the man who invented motion, had become a ghost in history. His disappearance was so complete, so clean, that even today, no conclusive evidence of his fate has ever surfaced. And with his vanishing, the door opened for others to step in and claim his glory. In the next chapter, we'll look at the aftermath, how Lou Prince's family fought to preserve his legacy, how rivals like Thomas Edison took center stage, and how the investigation into his disappearance slowly fell into silence. But before we continue, if this story has you thinking about how easily history can erase even its greatest minds, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. Here on at Mystery Vault 80, we explore the strange, the unexplained, and the forgotten. Now, let's follow the trail of the vanishing inventor into the storm that followed. The investigation and theories. Paper shuffling sound as if old case files are opened. When news of Lou Prince's disappearance broke, it spread across France and England like wildfire. How could a man simply vanish between two cities in broad daylight, without a single witness, without a trace? The French authorities launched a formal investigation, led by the Dijon police. At first, they treated it as a missing persons case, perhaps an accident or voluntary disappearance. But as weeks turned to months, the lack of evidence made the case increasingly bizarre. The railway company confirmed that Lou Prince boarded the train in Dijon. Yet when it arrived in Paris, there was no record of his disembarkation, and no one could recall seeing him leave. It was as if he had evaporated somewhere between two stops. Police scoured the countryside. They searched rivers, tunnels, even fields near the tracks, fearing perhaps he had fallen or been pushed. But no body, no luggage, no documents, nothing was ever found. The more investigators looked, the less sense it made. As newspapers caught hold of the story, theories began to multiply. And with every headline, the mystery deepened. Theory 1, murder or foul play. The most popular explanation at the time, and still today, was murder. Lou Prince was about to reveal his motion picture camera to the world. He had filed patents, had working prototypes, and was preparing for a public demonstration in New York City. If his invention succeeded, it would make him famous and possibly bankrupt rivals who had been racing for the same glory. And who stood to gain the most from his disappearance? Thomas Edison. Edison would later patent his own kinetoscope camera in 1891, just 1 year after Lou Prince vanished. To many, the timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Was it possible that Lou Prince's invention was stolen, his silence bought, or worse, forced? Could industrial espionage have led to his death? There was, however, no proof, no witness, no confession, but the circumstantial timing left a shadow of suspicion that never truly faded. Theory 2, suicide. Others believe the answer was more tragic. Some newspapers suggested that Lou Prince, overwhelmed by years of failed recognition and financial stress, may have taken his own life. But this theory never sat right with his family. His wife Elizabeth and his brother Albert both insisted he was happy, motivated, and full of plans. He had booked his ticket to America, spoken about his upcoming exhibition, and written to his wife about seeing her soon. There was no sign of despair, only hope. And if he had taken his life, why was his body never found? Theory 3, family betrayal. A darker possibility came from within the family itself. Rumors whispered that his brother Albert might have known more than he claimed. After all, Albert was the last person to see Louis alive. Some speculated the brothers quarreled over money or family property. But again, There was no evidence, only speculation born from silence. Albert maintained his innocence until his death, insisting he watched his brother board the train and never saw him again. Theory 4. The perfect disappearance. Then came the strangest theory of all, that Louis staged his own vanishing. Some believed he wanted to escape the pressures of business, or to live anonymously after years of failure. Others thought he wanted to reinvent himself in America under a different name. But if that were true, why abandon his life's work? Why leave behind his wife, his son, and his invention, the very thing he'd spent decades creating? No money was ever withdrawn. No letter was left. No new identity was ever found. The missing link, the camera plans. Perhaps the most haunting detail of all, the camera plans and patent documents that Louis carried on the train were never recovered. Without them, no one could reproduce his exact device. And within a year of his disappearance, Edison's version of the motion picture camera dominated the market. Was it all coincidence? Or was Louis Lou Prince, the true father of film, erased from history on purpose? To this day, no official conclusion has ever been reached. His disappearance remains an open case, unsolved and largely forgotten outside academic circles. But as we'll see in the next chapter, his family refused to let his memory die. They would spend years, decades, trying to clear his name and prove the truth of what really happened on that train from Dijon to Paris. The family's fight for justice and the shadow of Edison. When Louis Lou Prince vanished, the world barely blinked. The police gave up within months. The newspapers moved on. And history, it seemed, was ready to forget him. But one person refused to accept the silence. Elizabeth Lou Prince, his wife. She believed her husband was murdered, not missing, and that the truth was being buried under money, patents, and power. Elizabeth gathered every letter, drawing, and fragment of Louis's notes. She corresponded with lawyers, scientists, and journalists, trying to piece together his last known movements. She visited Paris and Dijon, retraced his steps, and begged the authorities to reopen the case. But no one listened. To the world, Lou Prince was simply gone. And in his absence, another man took center stage. Thomas Alva Edison. In 1891, just 1 year after Lou Prince's disappearance, Edison patented the kinetoscope, his own motion picture camera. He claimed it was entirely his invention, a revolutionary device that captured moving images on film. The press hailed him as the father of motion pictures. But Elizabeth knew better. She recognized the designs, the lens mechanism, the rotating shutter, the film reel feed. They were identical to the ones Louis had perfected years earlier. She accused Edison of stealing her husband's invention, capitalizing on his disappearance. But how could she prove it? Louis's camera plans had vanished with him. There was no prototype left to show the world. It was as if someone had wiped him clean from existence. Elizabeth didn't stop. For decades, she campaigned to have her husband recognized. She wrote letters to scientific societies, even to the U.S. Patent Office, demanding an investigation. Her son, Adolphe Le Prince, took up the cause in the early 1900s. He became obsessed with restoring his father's legacy. And when Edison sued a rival filmmaker named William Dixon, Adolphe saw his chance. In 1898, Adolphe testified in court that his father, Louis Le Prince, had invented motion pictures before Edison, years before. He presented old sketches, letters, and even a short surviving film made by his father in 1888 called Roundhay Garden Scene, one of the world's oldest moving pictures. The footage showed his mother, his aunt, and a family friend laughing in a garden in Leeds, England, proof that Louis Le Prince's camera had truly worked. The evidence was clear, but the courts didn't care. Edison, backed by wealth and influence, won the case. And the name Louis Lou Prince remained buried beneath corporate history. Tragedy struck again soon after. In 1902, Adolphe was found dead near New York, shot through the head in what was ruled a suicide. But to some, it was too convenient. He was days away from presenting new evidence in his father's case. Some believe he was silenced, just like his father. 2 generations gone, 2 mysteries unsolved. Elizabeth lived long enough to see Edison celebrated as the genius who gave the world cinema. but she never stopped whispering the truth. It was my husband who captured the first motion picture, and they erased him. Louis Prince's name was never restored in his lifetime. But historians today, filmmakers, engineers, and truth seekers are finally rediscovering his story. He was not just a victim of disappearance, but perhaps of industrial sabotage, greed, and one of history's first great cover-ups. Was Louis Prince murdered to protect corporate power? Was Adolphe's death a warning to keep the truth buried? Or did the Prince family fall victim to coincidence and misfortune? One thing is certain. Louis's invention changed the world, but he never got to see it. The lost invention and the ghost of recognition. Underscore. The faint sound of film flickering begins. When Louis Prince vanished, so did his invention. The first motion picture camera the world had ever seen. It was more than just a machine. It was his life's work, a dream he had pursued through rejection, poverty, and obsession. But after his disappearance in 1890, the camera itself vanished too. No police report, no official record. Just gone. His workshop in Leeds was searched by family, his notebooks locked away, and several of his early camera models were said to have been taken by unknown parties. Some believed they were stolen. Others whispered they were seized, destroyed, or hidden deliberately. But why? Some historians believe Louis Prince's invention was stolen, not lost. He was days away from patenting it in the United States, where Edison and other inventors were racing toward the same goal. If Prince had arrived in New York alive, the film industry and all its billions would have belonged to him. To one man, not Edison, not Hollywood, not anyone else. In the years following his disappearance, several patents were filed using designs eerily similar to Prince's notes, but none bore his name. Some were registered by assistants who had worked with him. Others, mysteriously, came from companies later absorbed by Edison's empire. It was as if someone had scrubbed him from existence and built an industry upon his ghost. And then a strange twist. In 2003, archivists uncovered a photo of a drowned man found in the Seine River near Paris, dated close to Prince's disappearance. The body's resemblance was uncanny. The face, though bloated and damaged, carried features that matched. Was it him? Had Prince taken his own life? Or had someone made it look that way? Forensic experts couldn't confirm it, the evidence too degraded. But one thing stood out. The photo was never logged by police until over a century later. Hidden in plain sight. Someone, it seemed, didn't want the truth to surface. And that's the haunting legacy of Prince's disappearance. A story not of invention, but of suppression, of ideas silenced before they could change the world. If you believe truth deserves light, not silence, make sure to subscribe to Mystery Vault 80 for more real stories buried beneath history. Like, share, and comment your theory. Was Prince a victim of power or a man consumed by his own obsession? Because somewhere between genius and greed, the truth went. Some say Louis Prince's invention didn't disappear. It shifted into legend. After his vanishing, strange things began to happen. Letters mentioning his work were lost in transit. Blueprints he'd mailed to colleagues never arrived. And witnesses who claimed to have seen his camera were later unable to find it again. It was as though the invention itself had become a ghost, haunting the corridors of time. A century later, film historians discovered Roundhay Garden scene, a short, grainy clip showing people moving in a garden. The footage lasted less than 2 seconds. But in that flicker of movement, Louis Prince's dream lived again. No one knew how the real had survived, but it was proof that he had done it. He had captured motion before anyone else. And yet, even that proof carried mystery. Some say the version we see today was restored from a copy, not the original, and no one knows who had it, or for how long. Was someone guarding Prince's work all these years? Or had the film simply found its way back from the shadows? Like his spirit, unwilling to fade? The story of Louis Prince isn't just about a man lost to history. It's about the fragility of genius, and how easily the world can erase the ones who built its foundations. Each flicker of light on a movie screen today, each frame that dances to life, is a whisper of the man who made it possible and was forgotten. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 7, The Shadow of Edison and the Lost Frame of History, where we dive deeper into the strange coincidences between Edison's early films and Lou Prince's lost designs, and the possibility that Lou Prince's invention secretly survived inside early Hollywood? The Shadow of Edison, Stolen Light, or Strange Coincidence. When Lou Prince vanished, another man's star began to rise, Thomas Edison. Within a year of Lou Prince's disappearance, Edison was filing patents for a device that would capture motion on film. It would later become known as the kinetoscope and would launch Edison as the father of motion pictures. But was this just coincidence? Or was the light Lou Prince created stolen before it could shine? Many researchers believe Edison's empire was built on silence, on ideas taken from inventors who were never allowed to tell their story. Lou Prince had been preparing to demonstrate his camera in New York in 1890. He wrote letters, booked travel, and told friends he would soon change the world. Days before that trip, he vanished. No body, no luggage, no trace. Then, just months later, Edison patented a motion picture camera. Could this be coincidence? Maybe, but the timeline raised too many questions. Lou Prince's family accused Edison of stealing his invention, a battle that would last decades. In 1898, Lou Prince's son, Adolphe, appeared in court to testify against Edison, armed with his father's notebooks, letters, and early film reels. He swore that his father had invented the moving image first. But Edison's lawyers dismissed him, saying there was no proof Lou Prince had existed as a filmmaker. They called him a fantasist, a ghost. Within 2 years, Adolphe Lou Prince was found dead, shot in the chest during a hunting trip in New York. Police ruled it a suicide, but no weapon was ever found. The case was closed. 2 Lou Princes both vanished, one into thin air, one into silence. Music swells, darker tones. To this day, Edison's name stands in every history book. But those who look closely see another story flickering between the frames. One of stolen light. One of truth buried beneath fame and fortune. If this story makes you question the history you've been told, subscribe to @DarkTruth25 for the hidden truths behind the world's greatest mysteries. Like, comment, and share, because sometimes the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. In another timeline, Lou Prince became the father of cinema. But history chose a different man. Months after Lou Prince disappeared, Edison announced his own invention, a machine that could capture life on film, almost identical to what Lou Prince had designed years earlier. It's tempting to believe in conspiracy, that Lou Prince's ideas were stolen, that his disappearance was orchestrated. But what if there's something deeper at play? Some say Lou Prince's invention was ahead of its time, too advanced for the world to handle. Others believe that fate itself intervened, that genius and recognition are never meant to coexist. Even now, as we watch films, each moving frame is haunted by the man who first dreamed them, a man who disappeared before his dream could take form. Perhaps the story of Lou Prince isn't about theft or murder. Perhaps it's about how easily we forget the ones who truly create. Every movie, every screen, is a silent echo of his vision, a light he lit long before Edison ever struck a match. The missing frame, the film that vanished with him. Nostalgic piano underscores the opening lines. Before the lights of Hollywood, before Edison's laboratories, there was one film, a few seconds of movement that changed everything. It was called Roundhay Garden Scene. Filmed by Lou Prince in 1888, it shows 4 figures walking and turning in a garden in Leeds, England. Just 2 seconds long. Yet in that brief flicker of life, mankind's first motion picture was born. But behind that 2-second reel lies another mystery, one that may hold the key to what happened to Lou Prince himself. The film, recovered from Lou Prince's family after his disappearance, was labeled Test Number 1. But notes found in his workshop mentioned something else. A second reel, a longer, more advanced version that he planned to showcase in New York. A film that has never been found. Some say it was destroyed to erase proof of his invention. Others believe it was stolen, perhaps even used by rival inventors to replicate his camera. In one letter, A friend of the family claimed a man visited the Lumière's workshop days before Louis vanished. A man connected to the American Patent Office. After that visit, several notebooks and film canisters disappeared. Could that second reel have been the missing link? The proof that Louis was first? Could it have been worth killing for? Decades later, that same missing footage was reportedly mentioned in a lawsuit against Edison's company, but it was never produced. Some historians whisper it was buried in archives, destroyed by fire, or quietly absorbed into early film patents under a different name. The official record says nothing, but the silence speaks volumes. If that missing film were ever found today, it would rewrite the history of cinema and expose one of the greatest intellectual crimes in modern history. So what really happened to the missing reel? Was it lost or taken? And if it was taken, by whom? The Roundhay Garden scene, 2 seconds of movement for people in sunlight, captured by a man who would soon disappear forever. It's haunting to think that humanity's first glimpse of motion came from someone who would never be seen again. But there was said to be another reel, a longer film, one Louis Lumière had promised to show the world. That reel was never found. Some call it the lost frame. Perhaps it burned. Perhaps it lies forgotten in a basement somewhere in France or England, unmarked and silent. Or perhaps it was never meant to be seen. Every artist leaves behind something unfinished, a fragment of their soul sealed in time. For Louis, that missing film feels like a message from beyond, a whisper that says, "I was here first." Historians debate whether the Roundhay film we know is truly the first version, or if it's a copy restored from memory, a ghost of what once was. Some even claim the figures in the film, Lumière's son, his in-laws, seemed to fade unnaturally, like the images themselves knew what would follow. A visual premonition of disappearance. And yet, that's what makes his story eternal. Every frame of film since then carries his spirit. Each scene, each motion, a reminder that light and shadow can create immortality. On September 16, 1890, Louis Lumière boarded a train from Dijon to Paris. He carried a small case, a handful of personal belongings, and the excitement of a man about to change the world. He was headed to America to publicly demonstrate his motion picture camera, a device that would make him a legend. But Louis Lumière never arrived in Paris. He vanished somewhere along that short journey. No witnesses, no body, no luggage, no clue. It was as if the train had swallowed him whole. The train from Dijon to Paris was busy that evening. Dozens of passengers, conductors, and porters. Yet, somehow no one reported seeing Lumière disembark. The official records claim he was last seen at Dijon station by his brother Albert, who helped him board. Albert later told police that Louis seemed calm, optimistic, even relieved. He spoke of his trip to America and his plans for the public screening. That would be the last time anyone saw him alive. When the train reached Paris, Louis was gone. His luggage was missing. His name was not on the arrival ledger, and no one remembered seeing him on the journey. Police investigated for months, but found nothing. No body in the countryside, no trace of a struggle. There were whispers of foul play, that Lumière had been murdered or kidnapped. His family suspected a business rival. Letters from that time suggest that Lumière had been receiving threats related to his patents. Some even came from within France's industrial circles, where other inventors were watching him closely. But there was another theory, one that points to something far darker. Some reports claim a mysterious man had boarded the same train in Dijon, a man who matched the description of a private agent later linked to Edison's legal offices. Coincidence? Or evidence that Lumière's disappearance was no accident? Even Lumière's widow, Elizabeth, told reporters she believed her husband had been silenced. Not for money, but for monopoly. Because if Lumière's invention reached the public, Edison would lose everything. And just like that, Louis Lumière, the man who invented motion pictures, vanished into history. Imagine a man on a journey toward destiny. Louis Lumière, inventor, dreamer, and father of motion pictures, sits by the window, watching the French countryside blur past. He doesn't know that this will be his final journey, somewhere between Dijon and Paris. Louis Le Prince simply disappears. No one saw him leave the train. No one saw anyone enter his compartment. It was as though he had been erased from existence. The official investigation yielded nothing. There was no ransom, no sign of struggle, no evidence of suicide. Only an unmarked gap in time. A few hours in which one of history's greatest minds vanished into thin air. Family letters describe Elizabeth waiting at the station in Paris, searching every face, scanning every platform, but her husband never appeared. The next morning, she received the telegram. Louis did not arrive. Some say he fell from the train. Others, that he stepped into a different kind of shadow, one history couldn't explain. In the decades since, psychics, historians, and dreamers have all tried to imagine what happened in that missing space between stations. Was he taken? Did he flee from something? Or did he cross into the very dimension of light and motion he'd helped to create? No body was ever found, only the endless whisper of the tracks, carrying a man toward a future he would never see. The search, the silence, and the family's fight for justice. When Louis Le Prince vanished, the world didn't stop. But for his family, everything did. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the silence from authorities was deafening. Louis's wife, Elizabeth Le Prince, and their son Adolphe began a desperate search, one that would take them across borders, through archives, and into the dark corners of corporate power. The French police opened an inquiry, but it was half-hearted. No public statements, no serious search. Within weeks, the case of Louis Le Prince's disappearance was quietly closed. Elizabeth refused to accept it. She wrote letters to government offices, to French authorities, to British consuls, even to Thomas Edison himself. None replied. If my husband has been silenced by those who fear his invention, I will not rest until his name is cleared. But her pleas were met with silence. Behind the scenes, a storm was brewing. Because just 2 years after Louis vanished, Edison unveiled his kinetoscope, a motion picture device almost identical to Le Prince's design. Coincidence? Or something far more sinister? The Le Prince family was outraged. They accused Edison of patent theft and industrial espionage. But without Louis or his prototypes, they had no proof. The legal system refused to hear their case. By 1898, Elizabeth was nearly penniless, spending every last coin on lawyers and investigators. Her son Adolphe took up the fight, determined to restore his father's legacy. He testified in a lawsuit that would shake the industry. Edison versus Biograph, the trial that decided who truly invented motion pictures. Adolphe swore under oath that his father, Louis Le Prince, was the true pioneer. He even produced witnesses, sketches, and early film reels. But the court refused to recognize them, dismissing Le Prince's work as unsubstantiated. Weeks later, Adolphe was found dead, shot in the head, near New York. Police ruled it suicide, but his mother, and those who knew him, believed it was something else. 2 men, 2 deaths, one vanished, one silenced, and a legacy buried under corporate greed. After Louis vanished, his family waited, every train whistle, every knock at the door, a flicker of hope that he might still return. But the silence stretched on, and in that silence, the mystery deepened. Elizabeth Le Prince became a woman haunted by absence. She searched tirelessly, through letters, embassies, archives, following rumors of a man seen wandering, confused, across France. Each lead ended in disappointment. Historians say her home in Leeds became a shrine to her missing husband. His sketches, his photographs, the reels of early motion tests he had filmed with their children in the garden. In those silent, flickering images, she saw him alive again. But time moved forward. The world embraced a new name, Edison. And Louis Le Prince faded from the story of cinema like a ghost erased from a frame. Years later, their son Adolphe took up his father's mission. He stood in court, defying giants, swearing that the man who vanished on a French train was the true father of motion pictures. His voice trembled, but his conviction did not. Yet fate had one final twist. In 1902, Adolphe was found dead, the cause labeled suicide. But the questions linger to this day. 2 disappearances, 2 silences, and a legacy that refused to die. The hidden frame, the lost invention. Every frame tells a story, and sometimes one missing frame can change history forever. For decades, the Lumière family's fight seemed hopeless. Lewis's notes, blueprints, and early films were either stolen or sealed away by those with something to hide. Then, in the 1930s, a discovery shocked historians. Deep inside the archives of the British Museum, a single film strip labeled Leeds Bridge, 1888, was found, credited to Louis Le Prince. It showed people walking across a bridge, ordinary, unremarkable. But experts realized it was something far more. The world's first motion picture, shot years before Edison's or the Lumière brothers. The frame was blurry, but undeniable. Louis had done it first, and yet his name had been erased. Why? Because acknowledging Le Prince meant unraveling the web of lies that built an empire. It meant admitting the man who disappeared on a train may have been silenced to protect powerful interests. Film historians now whisper about suppressed patents, missing crates from his workshop, and witnesses who vanished soon after the investigation began. Some even claim Le Prince's disappearance was orchestrated, a contracted cover-up tied to Edison's corporate circle and the early U.S. film lobby. The truth was buried under reels of lies. But not forever. Today, with modern restoration technology, those old fragments, Le Prince's home films of his family and Roundhay Garden scene, have been digitally restored. Each frame is proof of genius, proof of theft, proof of murder, perhaps. Louis Le Prince may have vanished, but his invention lived on, stolen, renamed, monetized by others. The first filmmaker erased by history, because the crime wasn't just his disappearance. It was the theft of his life's work. Long after Louis Le Prince's disappearance, his story seemed lost to time. But time, as it turns out, has a strange way of revealing what we forget. In the 1930s, archivists discovered an old film canister, mislabeled, inside a dusty cabinet in the British Museum. When developed, the flickering black and white images revealed a simple scene. People crossing the Leeds Bridge. Nothing spectacular, until experts realized this was the first moving picture ever captured. And the name on the label, Louis Le Prince. It was as if he had spoken from beyond time, through the lens of his own invention. A man erased from history, still whispering through light and shadow. Today, film historians consider those few surviving seconds a miracle. They are the foundation of everything that came after: cinema, storytelling, emotion on screen. Without Le Prince, there might be no Hollywood, no motion pictures, no visual history as we know it. His story is not just a tale of loss, but of perseverance, proof that even when a man vanishes, truth endures. Louis Le Prince's camera may have fallen silent, but his vision continues to project through every screen, every film, every spark of imagination. As the light from history's first camera fades, we're left only with questions and the faint outline of a man who gave us the gift of seeing time itself. Louis Le Prince's invention changed the world, but his disappearance reminds us that every light casts a shadow. Perhaps he was erased by fate or by human greed. Perhaps his work unlocked a door that should never have been opened. What remains certain is that his mystery endures, flickering frame by frame in every story ever captured on film. Thank you for unlocking this vault with us tonight. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, share, and subscribe to Mystery Vault 80. Your support keeps the vault open and keeps us searching for the truths the world can't explain. Don't forget to tap the bell icon to get our newest investigations every week. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, not all who disappear are truly gone.